Cześć, mam na imię Abigail i kocham Polskę. Hello, my name is Abigail and I love Poland. Today I have the privilege of talking about Poland, a bit of the history of Christianity within the nation, and more specifically, the Catholic tradition of Poland. During the time of Jesus, Poland really didn't exist. There were tribes that occupied the space that we know as Poland, but it really didn't exist. About 1,000 years after the life of Christ, the Slavic tribe known as the Polanians came to live in what we now know as Poland, but it wasn't on the world radar until 966. In 966, the Christianization of Poland occurred as a result of the baptism of Chief Mieszko I. This is a huge event for Poland, as well as understanding the Catholic tradition within Poland. Poland came to be as a result of religion, so since the beginning, they have been rooted in religion. Moving on from the initial Christianization of Poland, there have been numerous important leaders in the religious history of Poland. First of all, there's Stanisław Hozeusz. Hozeusz contributed to the church in numerous ways during his lifetime, but mainly for our purposes, Hozeusz was no friend of Protestants and was seen as one of the foremost dangerous threats to Protestantism. He was a great help to the Catholic Church and frequently attempted to weaken the Reformed Church, and his ultimate goal was to have one king, one religion, and was frequently considered the savior of Catholicism in Poland in the death of Luther. Moving on from Hozeusz, there was Peter Skagra. Skagra he established numerous public service organizations, but more notably in this context, he is considered to be the shaper of the tradition of Catholic Polish nationalism and was extremely influential in the Polish resistance of Reformation ideas, and his ultimate belief and desire was that ideally Protestants should return to the Church of Peter. Moving on from Reformation-era leaders, there was also leaders that emerged as a result of World War II, when Catholic leaders were forced to lead the church along because the papacy stayed silent in regard to the atrocities being committed in Poland at the hands of the Nazis. One such leader was Bishop Karol Radomski. Radomski at one point wrote, "The churches are profaned or closed, religion is scorned, worship ceases, hundreds of priests are dead or imprisoned, and innocent hostages are murdered almost daily before the eyes of children, and the Pope keeps silent as if what happens to his flock does not concern him." Now that we've talked about some of the religious leaders of Poland, let's look at some of the events that shaped Poland. First, and perhaps most important, is the Reformation. In 1520, students from Wittenberg brought Reformation ideas into Gdansk and Krakow. The Reformation within Poland spread fast, but was promptly shut down by the Catholic Counter-Reformation. The Reformation is so important because the Catholic Church was forced to make changes, and this time period is the period in which the Catholic Church deepened and cemented their roots within Poland and stepped further into establishing a national identity intertwined with Catholicism. Also important to note is that this is a time when what is commonly seen as Catholicism and what is seen as Christianity are separated and established independently. Continuing in the Reformation era, another important event that occurred was the partitioning of Poland and the abandonment of the Poles by the Vatican. While Poland was facing struggle on all sides, the papacy abandoned them as they were carved up by Russia, Prussia, and Austria in the 1770s. However, the Polish people were much more firmly planted in the church than the church was in them, and despite papal abandonment, 2/3 of the nation remained both nationalistic and strongly Catholic. Fast forwarding just a bit into 1831, Russia took complete control of Poland and began to change different aspects of the country. Poland was Russianized and the ruble replaced the zloty. The University of Warsaw was closed and all schools became subject to direct Russian control. So Russia created numerous issues for Poland because since Russia was in charge, what they wanted in schools and churches is what took place, and the Poles really didn't have any say. Fast forwarding, the next truly massive and important event that took place in Poland was the Nazi invasion of Poland and its takeover in 1939. During the Nazi rule, they targeted many church leaders, including nuns and bishops. Part of why this is so influential in Polish religious history is the fact that, again, when Poland was in need, the Vatican ignored the need. Pope Pius VII seemed incapable of saying anything against Nazism and the persecution of the Polish clergy, let alone the persecution of the Jews. At one point, the Polish Church even considered disassociating with the Vatican because of the inability to speak out in regards to the Nazis and their genocide. In 1945, World War II ended and Poland traded Nazi rule for the communist rule of Stalin and Russia. At the end of the war, Stalin was strong, and Polish Stalinists knew that the best way to defeat and suppress Poland was through the church. Church broadcasts and publications were either shut down and banned or massively censored. Catholic charities were restaffed by state officials, Catholic youth groups were shut down, and religious hospitals were taken over by the communist state. And by 1951, there were 900 believers in prison, yet Poland never abandoned her Catholic roots. So now, in 2017, Poland is about 99% Catholic. The Catholic Church is the official church of Poland, and tradition is everything in Poland. David Warner of Josiah Venture commented, "Unfortunately, very often the influence of tradition is only negative. It takes people away from a personal and close relationship with God. It kills the relationship. Instead of living out of love, people tend to live out of must. The tradition very often focuses on deeds rather than grace and love." So what does Poland need from Christians now? Poland is in desperate need of missionaries who are willing to take time and understand the importance of Catholic tradition in Polish culture. Missionaries who examine the culture of Poland are far more beneficial to the Poles because they understand why Catholicism is so ingrained into Polish identity. The biggest challenge within Poland is the Polish tradition of Catholicism. Catholicism is not the enemy of the gospel by any means, but any religion solely for the purpose of tradition is toxic and has the potential to cloud the truths and beliefs of that religion. Another comment Werner made about Poland was that Catholicism in Poland is super traditional and human authority based. People are dependent on priests and the church. The biggest lesson that I learned while researching Poland is just how important culture, and more specifically cultural context, is while doing missions. Cultural tradition is something to take into consideration when planning missions and going on missions. Context is crucial, and missionaries especially cannot assume, place, or impose their own personal culture on another culture. One organization doing an amazing work within Poland and combating traditionalism is Josiah Venture, where David Werner serves as the head of the Polish section known as FALA. JV does a number of things to reach the youth in Poland, and there are 9 different projects and ministries run by FALA: English Camp, Fusion, Exit Tour, H2O, Project 2911, Edge, Adventure, and Eldorado. Each project or ministry has the same common goal of equipping youth, and the different ministries do it in a variety of ways, such as soccer, English lessons, prevention lectures, choir groups, and many more. While tradition is not an easy beast to fight, God is on the move in the world, and especially in Poland. I hope you've learned a bit about a lesser-known country and its culture and gained valuable information for missions to Poland and the world in the future. Dziękuję I do widzenia. Thank you and goodbye.